Hello and welcome to livealittlehigher.com. I am very happy to welcome you to this new website. Every week I will be posting short shiurim on Shalom Bait, on the parasha of the week, and on happiness. There will be a Hasidut class, and there will be holidays and Rosh Chodesh too. You're welcome, and it's my pleasure to introduce to you today the parasha of Lecha. This is a very special parasha for me because 15 years ago, my husband, in this exact parasha, decided that he wanted to become Shomer Shabbat. On that day, our life changed forever. I would have never imagined 15 years ago that I would be able to give shiurim and give classes and learn and look how I look and live the life I live today. So I want to thank God, especially this week, for giving us this great opportunity to connect to Him and live a true Jewish life full of Torah and mitzvot and a lot of joy. And I hope that these classes will inspire you and will give you strength so you can Lech Lecha, so you can continue your mission in this world and be true to who you are and live a beautiful life. So Lech Lecha is the third parasha of the book of Genesis, of Bereshit. And it's interesting to note because the last two parashas were not happy parashas. The first parasha of the creation of the world introduces a man called Adam and Hava and Eve, and they are a disaster. It's a bad experiment. And then from then, 10 generations later, we are introduced to Noah, who was the parasha of last week, and also we see that the parasha doesn't start in a good way and it doesn't end in a good way. It starts with the flood that destroyed the world, and it ends with the building of the Tower of Babel, where a whole generation was dispersed because they were building this tower to destroy God. They wanted to be the owners of the world. And here again we see that humanity is not what Hashem expects from us. And until this parasha of Lech Lecha, where we're introduced to Abraham Avinu, our forefather, we can see that we finally got it right in the third try with Abraham. And why? Because Abraham was a person that realized that there was God, and that was what made him different from everybody else in those days. People believed in many, many gods. It's not that they didn't believe there was one true God, but they couldn't believe that everything in the world was run by Hashem. And Abraham was the first person in the whole world who realized that there was Hashgacha Pratis, there was divine intervention, and that Hashem had a complete saying in our lives. He was part of our lives and He was part of our process. So the parasha starts saying, God said to Abram, go further away for your own benefit from your land, your birthplace, and your father's house to the land which I will show you. And here this first pasuk says, Lech Lecha, go away. He's telling Abraham, go away from everything you know. Go away from your father's house, from your land, from your birthplace. Imagine if one day you wake up and God talks to you and tells you, live your comfortable life, live your beautiful home, live your business, live your parents, live all your friends and all the people you know, and just go to a place I'm going to tell you. Would you do it? I don't think so. It's not so easy. But in reality, in our day-to-day lives, we have had many Lech Lechas. Me personally, I have experienced them a few times where I have to leave everything behind and start all over again. And I imagine most of you in a certain way cannot, it doesn't only mean that you leave the place you're living. It means maybe it's a job, a relationship, you're getting married, you're starting a new life. All these new experiences in our lives are called Lech Lecha. So I want to concentrate today in a siha by the Rebbe, by the Lubavitch Rebbe, on Lech Lecha, And it's a very interesting siha because it's talking about Abraham. And what does it mean to really go to yourself? What is Lech Lecha? What does it really mean, go to who you really are? And here, Hashem is telling him to leave what he thinks he is and go towards your soul's essence. Go to who you really are and your ultimate purpose, that for which you were created. So from here we see that he leaves everything behind with his wife Sarai, and then she's changed to Sarah, but at that moment she's Sarai. And they're supposed to go to the land of Israel. And when they get to the land of Israel, which we would say they're doing an aliyah, they're making an aliyah, they get there and what happens? There's a famine and there's no food. And then the parasha tells us that Hashem tells Abraham, and there was a famine in the land, and Abraham went down to Egypt. So here we see first he goes south to Israel, he's going up, and then it's telling us here, go down to Egypt. So here the siha of the Rebbe, it's telling us that he is descending, he's having a descent. So if in life Hashem is taking you out of somewhere where you are, because supposedly you have to go a step higher and suddenly you have to fall down, what does this really mean? So is it an ascent or is it a descent? So to go to Egypt was itself a spiritual descent. And Abram went down to Egypt, and the cause of his journey, and there was famine in the land. Also seems like the deliberate concealment of God's blessing. So we would say like Hashem is hiding from Abraham. He's not showing him that he's with him. And this is one of the tests. Abraham actually went through 10 tests in his life, which he had to overcome. And this is one of them. So here we see that God promised Abraham, and I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you and make you your great name. So it doesn't make any sense that he would make him go down to Egypt. So from here we learn that Abraham's mission was not only a personal mission. In reality, the Midrash compares his many journeys as the way to it's like a spice box that must be shaken about so it can spread its smell all around the places that it goes. So Abraham going down to Egypt really is for him to elevate Egypt. That was his whole purpose of going into Egypt, was to bring the holy sparks of the place and make it godly. And also he was paving the way for the Jews when they were going to be enslaved in Egypt. So our forefather was really building the foundation of the Jewish salvation in Egypt by him going there first and having to deal with a Pharaoh, and then he realized that Sarah was a beautiful woman. The question is, didn't he realize before that his wife was a beautiful woman? But here we see that before he didn't have to be showing her around, and here when they go to Egypt he realizes, I am in trouble because this Pharaoh, he's gonna want my wife, and he gets scared. So how in face of so many contrary indications can it be that the whole story of Lech Lecha is, as its name would seem to imply, one of Abraham's continual ascents towards his destiny? So as we would think that going down to Egypt would be a descent for Abraham, in reality it was just going down so he could go up again. So it's like when you go on a roller coaster, sometimes you're going down and then you're going up. It doesn't mean that when you're going down, you're going to be down there. It's the roller coaster is taking momentum and it's gaining speed when it goes down, so it can go up in a higher way. And that's what the Lech Lecha is. So here we see that the works of the fathers are a sign of their children, a sign for their children. This does not mean simply that the fate of the fathers is mirrored in the fate of their children. It doesn't mean that if a father had a bad life, his children are going to have a bad life. What it means is that what they do, the good things, the good deeds that the parents do in their lifetime do bring merit to their children. And sometimes a big kindness that a parent did for someone else will be repaid to their children or grandchildren. And God doesn't miss one bit. He's always right there, measuring everything you do and putting it away in a investment account. And then one day when the children need it or the grandchildren, God will repay them. And what it says here is Abraham's journey down to Egypt foreshadows the future of the Egyptian exile. And Abraham went up out of Egypt, presages the Israelites' redemption. So what he was really doing there was that he was working beforehand, so when the Jewish people would leave Egypt with Moshe Rabbeinu, they would leave very rich. As Abraham did when he left Egypt, he left a very rich man. And it says this here in the Siha, that the end is implicit in the beginning, the end is wedged in the beginning. And this is understood in this light. We can see that the end of Abraham's journey to Egypt foreshadowed in its beginning, for its purpose was his eventual departure. The whole purpose of him going down to Egypt was him leaving Egypt, the way he was going to leave Egypt. That's why he had to go there. And this was indeed the purpose of the Israelites' exile into Egypt, that God's presence should be felt in its most intransigent of places. Like sometimes people have to go to places. I remember a few years ago, I was with my mother and my sister in a beach. And I go covered up, I'm wearing my whole thing. And I'm there and I'm wondering, what in the world am I doing here? This is not a place for me. I'm wasting my time. I should be learning. I should be teaching. What am I doing here? And then one day I opened the Siha of the Rebbe, and it happened to be that it said, at that moment, it says, wherever you are is where you're meant to be. So we can see also with Joseph, when he was incarcerated in Egypt by Potiphar, which is a different parasha, we can see how what was a nice Jewish boy doing in jail in Egypt. But we see that from him being in jail, he ended up becoming the viceroy of Egypt, and in that way he saved the whole world from famine, and there was a purpose for him to be there. So here when it says that the end is implicit in the beginning, what it's saying is the final ascent was implicit in the descent. The reason of the descent is the ascent. When we fall, it's only for us to get momentum and just go higher. So never lose hope and never lose track of why you are where you are. And to finish off, Abraham's removal to Egypt was not an interruption, but an integral part of the command of Lech Lecha. So Lech Lecha, to leave your comfort zone, to leave your home, to leave your birthplace, to leave your parents, it means to journey towards the self-fulfillment which is serving God. That's the whole purpose. Everywhere we go is just to serve Hashem. It's to be a light in that place and to reveal God's presence in that place. Exile then is an integral part of a spiritual progress. It allows us to sanctify the whole world by our actions and not simply a small corner of it. So what it means is that we have the capacity to really cause an effect in this world. As little as you think of yourself, you are causing an effect. And for better or for worse, you are causing an effect. For example, if you see, I remember many years ago, my sister-in-law, she lost her husband, and there was a certain lady that was a widow, and she was a very depressed lady, and she was always crying and very sad lady. And my sister-in-law, she said, I don't want to become like that person. I really don't want to become like that person. So sadly, that person that was depressed, maybe you would say, oh, what a low person, but that person helped another person to be in a higher place. So you see, there's nothing lost in this world. Everything serves a purpose. And here, what it says is that what appears on the surface to be a decline is, however, hidden part of the continuous process of transformation which we work on the world whenever we dedicate our actions to Torah and God's will. In other words, the world constantly becomes more elevated and refined. Even though we think the world is in a very low place, we have to really believe, because this is the truth, is that every generation that happens, the world is elevated more and more and more to its final destination, which is the coming of Mashiach. And whatever a Jew's situation might be, when he returns towards his true self-fulfillment in the injunctions of Lech, Lecha, he places his life and his actions in the perspective of Torah and takes his proper place in the bringing of the future redemption. So we are all working for that. If you're aware of it, amazing. If you're not aware of it, you are working for that, even if you don't know. So everything we're doing, everything we're saying, everything we're thinking does have an effect in this world to bring Mashiach, to bring the true light to the world, and to bring us to our final destination. So Lech Lecha, have a beautiful week, and I'll see you next week. Live a little higher.